Hi everyone, welcome to my YouTube channel. My name is Sloan, and today I'm going to be talking about the string of pearls, which is one of my all-time favorite plants. I know that string of pearls can be a really tough plant for some people, so I'm hoping that the information that I'll share with you today will help you keep yours not only alive, but also thriving like this one. Alright, so the first thing that I'm going to be talking about is light. The best lighting condition that you can give your string of pearls is going to involve getting light up to the tippy top of the plant right here to these pearls. They really like light being up there, but if you can't give them that, you at least want to make sure that they get a lot of light. The more light that you give your string of pearls, the better off that your string of pearls is probably going to be. And they can take a little bit of direct light and actually will like it. So the window behind me is actually an east-facing window, and it does get a bit of direct light in the morning, and obviously it is very happy with that. But other than that, I do keep it in my sunroom. So this is a north-facing window, which stays bright all day, and I also have south-facing windows to the left of me. So the more light you give it, really, the better. They like a lot of light all over, hitting every single pearl. All right, I've brought you a little bit closer to talk about watering. And I do think that watering is where most people go wrong with their string of pearls. It is not a plant that needs watered often. I generally water mine probably ends up being every 3 or 4 weeks, but that's definitely going to depend on the size of the plant that you have, how much light it gets, the soil mixture it's in, a lot of different things. So instead, I'm going to give you some indications that you can look for in your plant that will help you figure out when it does need water. What I like to do is to check how dull the pearls are. And what I do to do this is I look at kind of the newer pearls is what I'm going to call it. So if you look at this strand right here, these new pearls are shiny. They're super shiny because they're brand spanking new, and that's just how the brand spanking new pearls kind of pop out. And then these ones here generally are shiny, but when the plant needs watered, these ones will start to get dull. So that's what I keep my eye on when it comes to my string of pearls. And then the reason why you don't want to look at the pearls on the very, very tip top is because those are dull all the time. If you have a mature plant, it's just kind of what happens as the pearls get over. It's not really a problem. It's still beautiful, but that's why you kind of want to look at what I would say is the newer pearls. And one other method that a lot of people use to water their string of pearls, which is not really one that I have paid attention to or tried, but is very similar and might work for you, is by looking at the pearls' windows. So if you look really closely at your string of pearls, you can see that they have a little line going through them, and I'll see if I can find one that has kind of more of a pronounced window. That might be helpful, but I probably will put pictures up so you can kind of see what's going on, but they kind of have a little line going through. This one does have it, but I don't know if you can see it. But the little line is like a window to the inside of the pearl. And when the window is big, the plant has been freshly watered and it's doing really well. And the idea is that when the window closes, that's when you water your plant. And what I'm actually noticing is that the pearls, my newer pearl check, they are looking pretty dull, and the windows are pretty slim. So it seems like both of these indications could probably help you hand in hand. And the other kind of thing that I want to say about watering is about the amount of watering and actually where I water from. So when I do water my string of pearls, I am not heavy-handed. With a lot of other plants, you do want to water until the water comes out of the bottom of the plant. I do not do that with my string of pearls. I do not saturate it. I kind of water at the top using a watering can with a spout so I can kind of get in the nooks and crannies, trying to avoid, just splashing all over the pearls on the top because generally they don't love to be wet. I do get some water on the top of my pearls, but you don't want to soak them. But I kind of take that spout and just water in between the pearls as best as I can. And really, I maybe give it a cup of water. It's not a lot, and maybe half a cup. So you don't have to saturate this plant. You don't need to soak it. It's going to do just fine. Some people do bottom water their plant, which is where you would take this whole pot and set it in a bowl of water, and then the plant will soak up all of the water that it needs. I have personally never tried that with this plant partially because if I had to take this down from the hanging basket to bottom water it every time, I would have no pearls left. They would have all have fallen off. So do what works for you. If bottom watering seems to work with you, some of the pros of bottom watering is that it doesn't attract fungus gnats, but this plant should never attract fungus gnats anyway, because fungus gnats like wet soil, and this should be dry 99.9% of the time. So top watering works for me. If you want to try bottom watering, I know people have had success with that with this plant, although I can't say for sure if it would work well with my particular plant. In terms of soil, I would recommend keeping your string of pearls in cactus soil because that's very well draining. I think mine is in straight cactus soil, but if you want to have there be even more drainage, especially if you're someone who's maybe heavy-handed with watering, you could mix in some extra perlite or pumice to allow more drainage through the plant, and that will certainly not hurt anything and probably be helpful. If you want to propagate your string of pearls, there are a lot of different ways that you can accomplish that. One way in which I have done it is actually every time I move my string of pearls, I feel like I lose some strands. And so I just take those strands, stick them in a cup of water, and this is an extremely fast rooting plant. I always see roots on my string of pearls cuttings within a couple of days. And I set mine always on an east-facing sunny window, so it's actually a very similar situation that it was used to when it was a full plant. And I always see roots really, really quickly. And so I usually end up actually planting them when the roots are probably like this long. What is that? I don't know, 3 inches. And this is actually a few that I have propagating right here. And as you can see, they need watered. A lot of them are pretty dull, so I will probably water them after this plant, or after this video. And yeah, the watering needs for this tiny plant is very different than this big one. These propagations need watered a lot more than this one. There's a lot less soil in here. And these are also used to water. So one of the cons of water propagating your string of pearls is that they get used to being in water and they like being in water. And then when you put them in soil and you let it dry out, then they don't like being dry, but this is also a plant that rots really easily. So it's hard to find the balance with propagations, I've found. And that gets into kind of one of my random tips is that don't buy a 2-inch pot of string of pearls if you really want to be successful. Tiny string of pearls, they're hard to keep alive when they're this small. Big string of pearls, much easier in my personal opinion and experience. I would buy at least a 4-inch pot of string of pearls if you want it to stay alive. If you like a challenge, go ahead and buy that 2-inch pot, but I would buy at least a 4-inch. You're going to have much better success if you do that. Other forms of propagation involve actually letting the plant root into dirt instead. So I could take this and I could chop it and let it root into soil, and that would probably go pretty well. One of my favorite ways of propagating that I've seen people do and haven't tried yet because I still need this guy to get a little bit longer is to actually take a pot of soil and stick it underneath like this, and you just kind of let it root in this way. And so I've seen people, they'll mist it to kind of keep it warm or water it sparingly, and eventually these little strands will grow roots, and then you can just chop them off from the mother plant, and then boom, second plant, and there's no shock of soil, or no shock of going from water to soil. And I'm really excited to try that eventually once this goes a little bit further down to hit my desk that's down here. So I'm excited to try that. Let me know if you have tried that form of propagation. It works pretty well for any string of plants is my understanding. So like string of hearts, I've seen people do it. But yeah, those are all the different ways that I know of to propagate this particular plant. In terms of humidity for this particular plant, it doesn't need anything special. Regular old household humidity is going to be just fine for it. And in fact, if your house is a little bit dry, it's going to be perfectly fine in that as well. And what I also want to share with you is that it will probably be fine if it gets a little bit cold. And the reason why I'm sharing that is because we had a particularly cold winter this winter here, and my sunroom, which is the room that we're in, just got really cold. The heater was not keeping up, and it got down to 57 degrees in this room this winter, and this plant was sitting right here. I never moved it. It stayed here the whole winter, and it has put out so much new growth this summer. So it's okay if it gets a little bit cold. It will most likely not die. It's a pretty hardy plant in terms of 57 degrees. That's not freezing by any means, but I was a little scared for it, and it's done just fine. So if you have it next to a window and you're worried once winter hits, it will probably be fine, would be my advice. Don't worry about it too much. All right, I think that's all that I have to share about string of pearls for today, but I hope I shared something that maybe you haven't heard before, or maybe if you have killed a string of pearls in the past, maybe this video gave you that little extra kick you needed to give it a try again. Let me know if any of these tips have worked for you, or if you have any other tips for this particular plant. And again, just thank you so much for watching the entire thing. If you like this video, feel free to like it, comment, let me know. I'm pretty new to YouTube in general, so that kind of stuff just really helps me keep going. And if you have any questions about string of pearls, I will do my absolute best to answer them in the comments as well.